Hello friends, in today's video let's deep dive into UI design principles. Start with let's explore about proximity, our first UI design principle. To make a successful UI design, it heavily relies on proximity and other UI principles. So what is principle of proximity? UI elements or items close together are always likely to be perceived as part of the same group. Proximity is one of the most important grouping principles and can overcome competing visual cues such as similarity or color or shape. The practice of placing related elements close together and separating unrelated elements can be seen almost in every UI design. So if you see in this example, the white space separates the shapes into two distinct groups through the principle of proximity. Even when including different shapes such as square and circle within each group, these two groups are still very clear. Using white space to either unite or separate UI elements is key to the groupings. In this example, in the navigation, the search function is located on the same line as the main navigation if you see. However, the extra white space between the main navigation and the search indicates that they belong to separate groups and thus have distinctive functionalities. This white space is critical for making the search function stand out from the rest of the menu. Whereas on a smaller screens like tablet, maintaining this spacing is not possible. To avoid these areas for being perceived as a single group, the search is shifted up away from the main navigation. Another example of Best Buy website. You can differentiate the links in the navigation by white space even though they have similar font size and styling. They are grouped in sections based on the action that a user needs to perform. Similarly, if you scroll down, UI elements are grouped based on the respective category and services. Throughout the page, all UI elements are either grouped by sections or either by white space. User can easily make out the group and scan the content. This is the principle of proximity. Let's see another example of best practices in the proximity. If you see in this example, in the left hand side, the list and the content is placed close to each other and there is very less space vertically and horizontally. This makes very difficult for the user to scan the content. Whereas on the right hand side, it's clearly visible for the user which description is meant for which icon. All the lists are segregated. There is enough white space vertically and horizontally so that proximity is being maintained. Let's look at another example of proximity. In this case, it is a bad example where the form is not being maintained or segregated in different categories. So all the fields are placed next to each other or below each other, which is not segregated by personal information or contact information or address information. It makes very difficult for the user to scan at one go. So this is how you should create the form. You can segregate the form by different categories. If you see in this both the examples, so all the personal information is cluttered at one place. It has created one section. Similarly, for the education information, there is different section. And for the other information like employment information or references or education, so they are segregated in different sections, which makes easier for the user to know that this information belongs to this category and it's easily segregated. Common mistakes in the login form the designers make. So if you see in this example, there is too much white space between the login button and the forgot password link, which does not follow the principle of proximity. So forgot password is part of the login information or login form. So if the user forgets the user ID or password, that is when the user would click on the forget password link below. So it should be below the login button like this one. Maintaining the white space is very important in the principle of proximity. Proximity may shift in responsive designs. So paying attention to the proximity of elements is particularly important when designing responsive layouts, as these groupings may change as they adapt different screen sizes. Scaling down to smaller devices can minimize the space between the elements or can push elements farther apart, destroying grouping relationships. So to conclude, placing related elements is close proximity and using white space to create meaningful group is a foundational principles in UI design. So making these groupings visually enhanced increases the usability by helping users quickly find and focus only on those UI elements which they need to perform a task. Thanks for watching the video and please subscribe to my channel and press the like button, and if you have any comments, please share your comments below.